Hello, my exceptionally wonderful friends. Today we're going to talk about what do you see? What do you want to see? What really are you seeing when you think deeply what you're seeing? Well, what would a geologist say? Well, that's this and that's that, that's whatever it is. Well, this is my problem because that is not just some kind of little mountain ranges. And this whole area here is not some kind of just, oh, well, they just pushed themselves against each other and turned into dragon scales. Well, no, I don't think that that's the case. I think this is some form of a dragonish scales. I don't see any other possibility here because I do know about the dragons and I've been shown about the dragons. So here's, and which everybody knows now, this whole area you can see well because there's no vegetation. And you can see the giant fish right there. And he's being attacked by the giant dragon right up here. There's his head. And then there's his neck. And there's your dragon scales again. And then these are not just accidental features on the landscape. That's the throat of that dragon. This is the outside part of, it's eroded down into his throat. You can see his actual throat. And it runs all the way down here, and it was slashed right here. And it ran out into the desert there, the blood. It's a red-blooded creature. And it is an avian. I've gone through the digestive system, and it has a cloaca. Now, it runs down here, all the way down, and there's another gash down here. Now, I don't know what that happened, how that exactly occurred, but it appears to be another gash. And then there's other little spots here and there. And then you get down into the stomach and so forth. And the whole thing runs all the way over to almost into the Mediterranean. This is the body. This is the head. It runs all the way down. The body is huge. Tail is over here. The legs are here. Digestive system is all in here. That's the cloaca right there. And you can see the dragon scaled tail right here. So this is not something that's silly. This is something that's real, and it's, virtually identical to what we just saw. Now, no one will admit to these things. The people that we've looked to tell us the answers, even like the European Space Agency, they won't talk to me. They won't discuss anything. They won't let me on their site. So I'm going to show you their site, and what I want you to do is go up there. They say, ask the experts. I've been asking. Nobody's there. Okay, my friends, I'm going to show you this real quick, and then we're going to move right along. This is a membrane. That's the upper layer, that's the lower layer. This is possibly an aqueous bilipid layer. Top layer, lower layer, aqueous lipids, fatty acids and so forth in between here. And it's eroded away. Lower layer, top layer. Watch this. You see down here, you see these balls? Those are interstitium balls all over the place. And what they do is they hold little, like wires really, made out of collagen and kerogens and all that. And they anchor in there. Then this membrane can move around and always come back to the anchors. I'll show you that in a second. But this is just incredible. Now, the size of this is absolutely enormous. These are the protein channels. These are where proteins and ions and so forth go through. Let me just, because I want to do this quick so that I can be sure that I have your attention. Now, look at the size of this thing. That's the upper layer. This is the lower layer. And then this is where the tendon balls are. I call them tendon balls. They're interstitium balls. And it's collagens and kerogens, and then these anchor balls, which they call concretions. They're not concretions. Those balls are the anchors that hold everything in its position so that it can move and flex, but it comes back. They're on straps. Absolutely enormous. Show this to any doctor. If he says that's not right, then you better find another doctor. By the way, this is Tyson Carlson's Mudfossil Adventures. Now, I work with him almost daily, and it's absolutely amazing, absolutely stunning, the size of this creature. In us, this layer here would be so thin that you look right through it, just like it wasn't even there, like a piece of glass almost. To be so thin. It's just what it is. Now, and that's Scott Wiles. Now, originally how this all happened was Scott sent me a picture of something that he saw, and it was almost undistinguishable of anything special, but I looked at it and I said, ooh, it looks like a transition zone. So then he did a little more, and then Tyson got involved, and Scott moves around a bit, so Tyson's pretty much really working this spot, like all up and down the coast. He's a hard worker, and he understands this stuff very well now. He's fully capable of saying what he sees. And this is the upper layer. You see these? And they said how they're different sizes and different shapes and so forth. Well, they are, because this one pushes water that way, let's say, and this one pushes water or sucks water this way. It's that type of thing. Hydrophilic and hydrophobic. Water loving, water hating. So, very, very unbelievable, but it is fact. Now, to deal with it, I think is the best way, rather than to just avoid it, which is the current process. Now, this is the best shot to show you the interstitium balls. These are the balls that we're talking about. This is interstitium. And those little flexible fabrics, they go back and forth, but they'll always come back to their shape, and the ball is the pin that holds them. See, there's a fluid-filled spaces between there. That way there, your finger, you can gush and come back and pull and come back and swish and do all that stuff. Otherwise, your body tear apart. Okay, as you can see, that's basically what I showed you at Tyson's location out there in Oregon. Now, that's the top leaflet, they call it, and this is the lower leaflet. In between is lipids, fatty acids and so forth, and cholesterol and so forth. And then you have these ion channels that allow these different molecules to go back and forth selectively. All right, and then you have these little glycolipids with the carbohydrates attached. So you have some variations on the surface, and then you have these channels. And it's exactly what it shows at Tyson's. Now, let's look at what these, if you're not a geek, just do something else for the next couple of minutes, because I'm going to talk about how these things actually function, because now I can literally prove my statements about how the enzymes facilitate your health. And I've been saying, if you have good enzymes, and enzymes are created from bacteria, and if you killed your bacteria with antibiotics, you're not going to have the bacteria in your gut. You can't create the enzymes. They're membrane-bound bacteria. They're living in the membrane. If you're dead, they're dead, they're dead. And then you can't create the enzymes, you can't create the enzymes, you can't create the products, you're dead. Now, this is up on Mars. The Mars rover left these marks, and that is, I can tell you right now, I can see that's some form of a bone, I'm almost certain. And these blue, this is not the actual color, I don't believe. I believe it's either black or very red. Not likely very red, because of this showing quite red. I believe this is black color. But it's blood more than likely. And they're sending back these images, and they said they're coloring them so that they become more enhanced or whatever. Now, you saw what's up on Mars. What is this? This is just overlooked. That's some kind of a tractor, obviously, something like a tank treads, and then it rolled its way up here and cut these slabs somehow and moved them, or this was the transporter or whatever. But this is machinery. That is not, and there's more than just this place. See, this is in Fuerte del Sempiata, Bolivia. Same thing. These are tank treads, and it's driving up there. And these are cut slabs, and in the back they used them to make the walls down in Peru. And they were obviously wet and soft. You can see it sunk in. when they cut them, they put them together and they just globbed together because they were soft like putty. All right, and this is what they were cutting, and that is a tendon. I'm telling you right now, it's a tendon, and this right here is some of the bloody parts of the tendon. They cut these slabs when they were wet, and they made these walls back here. For what purpose, I have no idea. All right, this is more tendon, and you see this white stuff? That's this mineral content. This is also a tendon, but this was in salty, I mean extreme salt or pancreas or something, etched away all of the mineral content of it and left it like literally like glass. This though is identical to what this is. That's the mineral. That didn't go away. You see it? The mineral doesn't go away. All of the bloody part, which is the blood, has a means of transferring, but the minerals are stuck in there, and that's why you see it there. Now, so we know it's not just there. It's the exact same machine. And here's the walls they made. Now everybody's seen these, and everybody's marveled at how they could fit together all these crazy looking things, and without even having any room in between them. They put them together wet. They cut them as the best they could cut them. And when they put them together, they just cut that out and dropped that in, and they just sliced this off and dropped it in, or whatever, pushed it in, you know, that type of thing. Now, this is a bone. Now, this is a blow-up of that spot. You see it right here? Now, this is muscle and tendon and so forth, which tends to have a lot more stability, a lot more concentrated stability. The bone is a lot more porous, and you have blood running out and so forth. It's just not as stable. And they use this chunk of meat attached to the bone. Up here, they use one that's just absolutely rotting. And this wall was not particularly well made. Up here, you see how perfectly those are and how perfect those stones are up there and over here. I don't know, they must have used what was left over at the bottom, is all I can think. Because this is not typical. Okay, my friends, so where do we go from knowing that the things that we have thought was about the earth are not correct? The earth is made of giant creatures. And it says this in the ancient texts. It says it. Even in Genesis, it says there was giants in the earth in those days. Then after that, when the sons of God went into the daughters of man, there were more giants. That was exactly what it says. Now, this is an obscure text that very few people have ever heard of. I'm sure you've never heard of it. Presea Theologia. Now, what does that mean? It's the single true theology exists. All right? This ancient theology is a doctrine that asserts one single true theology exists, which threads through all the different religions. It was anciently given by God to man. This is the way you're supposed to live. Now, and I'm going to show you what happened. We went into the age of enlightenment, which changed everything. We're going to go through this in a very scientific way. Now, this particular doctrine was written down back in the 15th century, late 1400s, sometimes during the 1400s. And it was to reform the teachings of the Catholic Church by means of writing down this ancient knowledge, which was Neoplatonism, which is new Plato stuff. Plato is very good. Hermeticism, which is Hermes, Thoth, very, very good, one of the earliest knowledgeable people. Then he also even talked about the oracles. Now, this is what I find exceptionally interesting. And as I'm telling you right now, I have been somehow instructed to do what I'm doing and showing this stuff and opening up truth, because truth is not allowed right now. And nobody allows it. They're not allowing me to put it out there either. So it's up to you to spread it. Now, this is what this guy said back in the 1400s. He said he saw himself as one member of a venerable sequence of interpreters who added to a store of wisdom that God allowed progressively to unfold. Each of these Prisia theologi, or ancient theologians, had his part to play in discovering, documenting, and elaborating the truth contained in the writings of Plato, who I have always had great reverence for, and other ancient sages. A truth to which these sages may not have been fully privy, acting as they were as vessels of divine truth. Well, Plato could not have seen the dragons and all that stuff. He wasn't around when that happened. Now, he said Atlantis, he described exactly where Atlantis was and all about Atlantis and how it collapsed and when it collapsed. It was 9,100 years before him. He lived approximately 400 BC. So it was approximately 12,500 years ago, something like that, I think, calculated it out at, that where Atlantis collapsed. Now, the great wisdom, totally overthrown, and here's why. Because of the age of enlightenment. All right, here was the issue. Back in the 17th to 19th centuries, they went into what they call the age of reason. No more God baloney, and none of that stuff where we can't see a guy floating around in a fluffy cloud, all that nonsense. We need something substantial. We need something that we can touch. Well, the Enlightenment included a range of ideas centered on the sovereignty of reason. In other words, don't tell me God is looking down, telling everybody what to do, and he's going to send you to hell if you don't do it. Well, that's just, you have nothing to show me that. No, the evidence of the senses as the primary source of knowledge. You have to touch it. You have to understand it. You have to make sure that it really is giants and that they were really written about. And the advanced ideals such as liberty, progress, toleration, fraternity, constitutional government, separation of church and state. I agree with separation of church and state. You want to believe whatever you want to believe, it's up to you. If you don't go searching, then that's up to you. And if you want to believe somebody just blurt something up, it's up to you. If you want to do the work to prove the things and go back to see what was written, because it's all been obscured. Now this is work to do it now. It's not just like you can just read it. You have to, like, nobody's ever heard of this stuff that I'm going to be presenting. I mean, very few people, trust me. I have this book here. You see this? This is the encyclopedia of mythology. And I was looking up this what we were talking about before. I can't even remember the name of it now. The Principia Theologia. It's not even in this book. This book has more. This is just unbelievable with the stuff that's in here. And it's not even in this book. So there is so much to dig into. And this is about as close as we get to it. This is where they say the first generation of all the peoples, civilizations, and religions on earth deified the products of the earth and considered them to be gods. The products, the food coming out of the earth, they considered godlike and worshipped them. For from the earth they drew their substance. They and those who followed them and all those who had been before them, and they made libations and ritual aspirations. When a plant died, there was lamentation, and also at the birth or death of an animal. They sound like they were a lot more human than we are.